Hello and welcome to Frock Flicks, the historical costume movie and TV show, blog, and very occasional podcast and vlog, I guess is what the kids are calling it these days. I am your host, Kendra Van Cleve, one of your regular writers at Frock Flicks, and I'm here with a very special guest to discuss a very special film. And as a result of how special the film is, we need booze. So first off, know that we are going to be drinking and this will probably get messy at some point. And I'd like to introduce Fanny. Fanny, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello everyone, I'm the owner of the blog Tant d'Élégance. It's a French blog. So yeah, English is not my tongue, so I will try to do my best to have the slightest accent, but it's quite tricky for me, so I'll try.
Your accent is charmant.
Oh. Thank you.
And Fanny, you've been studying and making historical costumes for many years.
Yeah, since almost 14 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I started 14 years ago, just next to here.
Yes.
In fact, to be honest, but I've always been fond of history, and sewing just came a little later when I started playing LARP, live action, role-playing action. And that's it, that's how I started. And since then, my whole life is quite around historical costumes.
I understand, as is mine.
So.
And Fanny specializes particularly in the 18th century, both researching it and also recreating it. And if you've ever seen photographs of any of the big French costume events, many of those are organized by her or her idea.
And thank you very much for inviting me to be on your YouTube channel.
You are more than our very occasional YouTube channel.
Yeah,
you are more than welcome. We're happy to have
you. It will be the first one of a long series of new videos.
When we get an intern.
I'm sure that if a lot of people are telling that they like this video and asking for more, you will make more. So please share your comment and ask Kendra and Tristan maybe to add more videos.
She's very optimistic.
I don't know.
So the reason that we are doing this video in France with a French costumer is we just went to see the new movie Jeanne du Barry, which is about the famous second big mistress of King Louis XV of France. It's been out a week or two here in France, and so we just went to see it in theaters. We'd already seen a few photos, so we knew there was going to be something to talk about, and yes, there is. So the first thing to say is this was directed by a woman named Mai Wen, right? Fanny's going to help with my pronunciation. And in the US, she's very famous for having been in The Fifth Element.
From Luc Besson.
Yes, but she's done a lot more films here in France. She is French. And it also, so she directed it. She stars as Jeanne du Barry. And the film also stars Johnny Depp. So, as many people know, Johnny Depp recently went through a very bitter, I believe it was a libel lawsuit with his ex-wife Amber Heard. And let's just say that Johnny Depp, he didn't come out looking the best. Lots of people have many opinions. The court ruled in his favor, but he's a bit of a difficult guy right now. So it's very controversial that he was cast in this film. Also, the fact that he's an American. So we'll say right off that apparently he had many more lines of dialogue and they edited many of them out. And I'm guessing the ones where we didn't see his mouth moving were probably dubbed over. Yeah.
I'm not sure that he was cut because of the way he was speaking, because I know that he had a lot of aggressive discussions with Mai Wen, and so they were not very good friends on the sets.
Right.
So because he didn't want it to do what he wanted him to do. So it seems that at the end she decided to cut some scenes because he didn't did them just exactly the way she wanted him to do. So who knows? We don't know.
We don't know.
But in fact, to be honest, his accent is quite okay. We hear it because he has an accent for sure, but it's not a big deal because it's very, very light. So why not? In fact.
What actually surprises me is a movie like Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette. Pretty much everyone just spoke with their natural accent, except for Judy Davis, who is Australian, although probably by this point has a very international accent. But my understanding is that the French are very precious about their language in a way that Americans aren't.
Yeah.
So that's a much bigger deal here that he would have even a bit of an accent.
There's been a lot of trash on newspaper because of that, because he's not French and he has an accent. But to be honest, it's not the real issue of choosing Johnny Depp. I'd rather say that he's not a nice guy, and this is a much more important issue that we have. Yeah, and to be honest, Mai Wen is well known in France for being herself an abuser. Because a few months ago she was in a restaurant and she saw a journalist just eating, and she assaulted him. And he didn't say anything. It just because he wrote a paper telling that Luc Besson was accused of rape. So he wrote an article about that, and when she saw this guy, she decided to assault him.
Wow.
Just because don't touch the rapist for Mai Wen. It's just the way you can imagine she is, because she has a lot of interviews for Jeanne du Barry in which she says a lot of shitty things about feminism. Like it's a mess. Women should do that because it's useless. Feminism for her is useless. So it just gives you a very good idea of this the kind of woman she is. And to be honest, she's not a nice person either. So that's why maybe Johnny Depp and Mai Wen are quite good together.
Well suited.
Because
There
they're the same kind of people.
Yeah.
And not the nice ones. That's the issue. But a part of the issue.
So I think we're definitely going to spend a lot of time on the costumes. But let's start really quickly with sort of story, casting. And to my mind, the casting was the biggest problem. So Mai Wen cast herself as Jeanne du Barry.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, no, actors do not need to look like the historical people that they're playing. But she brought a particular sort of Julia Roberts, big toothy smile kind of thing to the role, when du Barry was famous for being sort of a China doll. She had a similar look actually to Marie Antoinette, and actually they casted a great actress in terms of looks as Marie Antoinette in the film. And in some ways, I think that's very interesting that the two of them had a very similar appearance and a similar appeal. So then there were also some costume and hair choices that sort of exacerbated this problem, but just on a basic level, it felt like a very different interpretation of Jeanne du Barry and why people would have been drawn to her.
Yeah, but I think it's because she gave a lot of interviews, and she says very often that when she reads books about Jeanne du Barry, she said she made me remind of myself. And I think that this movie is much more about herself than about Jeanne du Barry, because to be honest, Jeanne du Barry in the movie has nothing in common with the real one, who was a very nice and shy person and very quiet and very polite. Even if she was friends with people who were not aristocrats, because she came from the street. But she was not a very extravagant person.
Interesting. The other thing I was surprised they didn't show that Jeanne du Barry, she worked in a dressmaking shop, right? And that's kind of where she was discovered. And yes, she was essentially a sort of high-class prostitute, but that's sort of where she got going. You jump from various difficult situations to her working in a brothel. I think the other, obviously, casting choice would be Johnny Depp as Louis XV. And other than sort of visuals, which we'll get into, I don't know, he seemed fine. We already talked about the accent.
Yeah, there's no big issue with the way he's playing Louis XV. I guess he's quite good at what he does, but he's a good actor. He might be a very awful person, but he's a good actor. We need to recognize that.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought the film really emphasized was all of the etiquette of Versailles, which in some ways felt like a retread of all the Marie Antoinette films and TV shows that have come out recently. But of course, that was important. I thought in some ways they showed that well. I didn't buy that she would actually stand behind a one-way mirror or a two-way mirror, whatever is the right word for it, and watch the levee. Like he'd slept with her once, and there's a strange scene where he has her watch the official rising of the king, which involves him getting out of bed and being dressed and all of that stuff. I don't know, that felt strange. And then the number one thing that killed me is they had this thing where no one can turn their back to the king. So instead of backing out of a room, they do this ridiculous, like overly mincing step that just, I mean, I get where they were going. They're trying to show the ridiculousness of the etiquette, but it felt like too much.
Really they wanted to show the grotesque, you can say grotesque, the grotesque way of doing things in Versailles. So that's why I think they portrayed the paces backwards in that way, which is quite burlesque, because it's really funny to see them walking like very tiny paces. So that's fun, but that's not historical.
And also then I ended up counting every time someone did turn their back to the king and didn't do that. So it seemed like if you're going to introduce that first, then you may as well really,
exactly.
lean on it. Were there other things about the story or the plot other than the costumes that you wanted to talk about?
Just that, it's portraying the love story of the king with Jeanne du Barry, and I don't know for you, but for me, it didn't work. Like, okay, they are in love just because they say that they are in love, but there is no small details that show for me, because she seems to be there much more by interest, because she's interested in money or glory, I don't know, but in position, and she's interested in her body, I guess,
and something new,
and something new, but there is. I don't know. I think it's missing a little something that shows that they are really in love and something of intimacy. I don't know. It's not portrayed in the movie. So about this topic, for me, it doesn't work.
Right.
But I don't know. Maybe you are not.
No, I mostly agree. I mean, I think Jeanne du Barry is yet again another historical version of the manic pixie dream girl, because she's the crazy, not part of the court, thinks this is all ridiculous, but then starts learning the etiquette, as of course she would need to do. I don't know, but they also show her sort of like reading and doing a lot of things that were important to her, but that aren't about connection with Louis. And I mean, of course, she's her own person. But yes, it was almost kind of like his eye then, he went on to other women, but he kept her around, so she was grateful, which was strange. And then also, if she's such a rebel, why she was so excited that Marie Antoinette finally talked to her, that she runs up a gazillion flights of stairs to announce, she talked to me, while she's in mourning for her sort of adopted son. It was strange that she suddenly, because it felt like the scenes were set up as though, all the shitty courtiers are being jerks to her while she's in mourning, and how dare they sort of worry about all of these things when she's mourning the loss of someone very important to her. But then suddenly she gives a shit. It was strange.
It was, something like in France we say la mayonnaise ne prend pas. It means that, when you are making a mayonnaise, sometimes it goes well and sometimes it goes totally fucked up.
Americans don't make mayonnaise, we buy it.
Sorry, but you can do it.
Little did I know.
So it's my French part. You need to make your own mayonnaise, because there's nothing in common with what you buy in your what you have in your fridge. You have to do it by yourself. But
meanwhile, to me, French mayonnaise is everything here that I eat is better than at home. But okay.
But when you are doing a mayonnaise, it's sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work, and it's the same recipe. You did it the same way, but a slight, maybe it's a temperature, maybe we don't know, but
it just
doesn't work.
Doesn't gel, we'd say.
Yeah, exactly, and you just have a very awful thing.
Weird mix of things that doesn't quite come together.
And that's why in France we say la mayonnaise ne prend pas. It means that the point is not you don't reach the mayonnaise at the end, and that's very important for French people.
Okay.
Sorry.
The more you know.
but no, because you have all the ingredients for making a good movie. I mean, they have budget. They have Versailles
apparently it's the biggest production ever filmed at Versailles in terms of like numbers of people and all of that, which...
So they have Champs-sur-Marne, they have Vaux-le-Vicomte, they have a lot of very amazing French castles. They have great actors. Normally they're great. But still the mayonnaise ne prend pas.
Yeah.
So
about me. Yeah, in a way it's interesting because I love a biopic. I love a biography in written form, and I love a biopic. It's the easiest way. I'm fascinated by where did this person come from? What was their childhood like, etc. And there were so many elements that actually really spoke to me of telling us her life. And then, you're right. It didn't quite come together.
When
and
you're
I also
able to compare yourself as Jeanne du Barry, you were able to do that. You were in her shoes or not?
No.
Yeah.
No. I didn't quite understand who she was as inside, other than, I'm from the streets and so, or from the country, and so I think this is all ridiculous. It just felt like that could be anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing I thought was missed was her life after Louis. They give you a voiceover to tell you that she goes to, they show you she goes to, no spoilers in history. She goes to a convent, and then eventually she ends up, she lives in some fancy house in the country for a number of years, and then she gets guillotined in the revolution, which they tell you, but they don't show that, and I thought that could have been, that was a missed opportunity, if you're really focusing on her as a person rather than her relationship with Louis, to be like, what was that like? How did she develop a life for herself? And then I'd be very interested to know, because I don't know the specifics of how specifically did she come to the attention? I mean, she was seen as an aristocrat, but still.
Yeah, but she, at the end of her life, she had nothing left. Because in my memory, for example, she had a lot of jewels. We see them in the movie, even if they are not accurate.
Oh, they're so...
a lot.
Circa 2000.
But for real, she had a lot of jewels.
Sure.
And at one moment, someone stole them. And she lost everything.
Okay.
I can't remember when, but in fact, she had a very beautiful castle, but with no money and nothing to sell for keeping her way of life. So, and she had a very shitty end of life. And the guillotine.
Right. Okay, one other thing too, before we get to the costumes, and trust me, we're getting to the costumes, would be Zamor.
Yeah.
Her page, who is black, who is given to her as a gift, which right there, and she's kind of shown as like having this depth of feeling where she immediately sort of bonds with him emotionally and then really cares for him and makes sure he's educated, etc., etc. It's still, in a way, I mean, I'm glad they addressed it because it's true. And if they hadn't, I would have judged them. At the same time, I feel like that's a whole story unto itself and maybe more important than Jeanne du Barry herself.
Yeah.
And also they show her leaving him at Versailles when she leaves, when I know he was with her throughout her life.
No, not because she's leaving to a certain place. Where she cannot
convent where
guys.
She can't go. So he probably joins up with her later.
Yeah, but I'm not sure because...
I know he did, because he was involved in the whole revolutionary stuff.
Yeah, after that.
I don't remember the specifics.
So to be honest, Zamor would have been a great choice. Maybe one day we will have a good movie about him because I think his character is just amazing and have a wonderful story. So I would like to see it. A biopic about Zamor would be great.
Absolutely, agreed. 2 thumbs up for that. All right, so now let's finally talk.
Oh no, sorry.
S'il vous plaît.
I stop you because we forget. The one positive thing is la board. Next to the king, because the king has I don't know how you say it in English, the guy who always stands next to the...
Kind of his valet, but not quite. It's one of his gentlemen who does a lot of, he's the one who brings in, he sort of facilitates Jeanne's first sort of meeting with the king, but then he really trains her up, and over time, he's the go-between, and the two really develop a relationship that's actually very touching. And I'd say his performance is really strong, even if his hair annoyed me.
Oh, why?
The backwards rolls. We'll get into that.
Why not? Okay, we'll
talk about that. But yes, a very strong performance.
Yeah, and he's great, and he's so touching because maybe he's the only person in the whole movie on which I was like, I'd like to know more about him. And I feel
I care about him.
Yeah, exactly.
And when he's sad that Louis dies, you're like, oh, that's sadder to me than her.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sorry, but her coming back. She's been sent away because Louis is dying, and then her coming back. Oh, and the Dauphin is like, let her in. The portrayal is very minor of the Dauphin is strange. Yes, we learned a new word in French, please.
Dégingandé.
Dégingandé.
Yeah.
Which means lanky. He's this very tall, skinny guy who, is kind of grunty and clearly doesn't have a lot of social cues. But mostly what he does is blank Marie Antoinette and then let Jeanne du Barry come back in for yet another final goodbye. And I don't know that happened, but whatever. It makes for a dramatic moment.
Yeah. Why not?
Whatever. All right, costumes. Okay, let's talk costumes in Jeanne du Barry, which were designed by a guy named Jürgen Doring. I'm probably completely mispronouncing that because I'm terrible with German. And I don't remember if he's done anything of note. I'll look later. But first of all, 1000% leading lady syndrome. Maïwenn is dressed in complete what the fuck, much of which was made by Chanel, other than the rest of the cast. So let's talk about Maïwenn first, both hair and makeup and costume, and then we can talk about everyone. Whatever, however order we watch it.
Not all our dresses were made by Chanel because
some of them were just bad.
Some were very
just bad 18th century.
Yeah, with made by people who have never worn any 18th century costumes, because at the end, I don't know if you saw.
The silver dress?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a whole thing about how satin is not your friend.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to commit to satin,
can I
please?
Can I add something? Because for me, it just made this scene of the presentation of Jeanne du Barry to the king.
Oh, that one
is a big I don't know how you say it. It's related to the Norma Shearer from.
That's exactly what I thought it was. The 1938 Marie Antoinette.
That's why she has a wig, the white wig, and
absolutely.
This very pale dress. And for me, there is
very metallic brocade.
Yeah, so I don't know how you say it in English, but the way that
an homage, we'd say.
Exactly, I'm burping too. It's an homage to the Norma Shearer movie from 1934 or 2, I don't know. 38, thank you.
You're welcome.
So you have this homage, and for me there is several homages to other historical
which
movies.
other ones did you see?
For example, when Marie Antoinette arrives in Versailles, she wears a very pale blue outfit with this little tricorn. Which is exactly what she's wearing in the Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette movie. So
I didn't see that.
For me, there is several homages, and why not? It's amazing.
Sure, on the one hand, why not? On the other hand, what is your vision? So why? I mean, I know it's so basic. Jeanne du Barry is the historical manic pixie dream girl. She's crazy. She's different. She's not from the court, so she wears crazy, different, sort of stripped down things. But oh my god, the sewn in stomachers with piping. Oh, and contrast, that one blue dress where she's running up the stairs with all the contrast piping just looked Victorian.
Yeah.
There was a dress.
If there was only that, I mean, at the beginning, during, when she's walking on the tables and she's just, I think the first time I made a corset, it just looked like that, and I was something like 17 years old, and it was my first corset, and I was not paid for that.
Right.
So I think that someone has been paid to do that, and that just...
And it was like a modern bustier that sort of went into kind of a bit of a panier, but it had this very bust curve. There was...
Maybe we will have some French people looking, so for us,
it's
just Tati Mariage. Because in France we have some discount shops, very, very not expensive shops,
Target.
Cheap shops, and one of them is for marriage and wedding. So I think that it's exactly the kind of dresses you can buy there.
David's Bridal.
Okay, that's the translation, because it's the same. You know when she's married and she has this little.
Oh, the tricorn that looked like a pillbox hat.
Yeah.
I thought it was Queen Elizabeth II.
Yeah.
I laughed audibly.
Yeah, she loves.
I did.
Yeah,
I laughed. I scoffed.
So and that's such wider shops.
Yes.
Outfits and
yes.
hats, and it has nothing to do in this kind of movie where. Sorry, but you are shooting in Versailles, so please, no bridal stuff.
It's, you know, I mean, I get it. Everyone wants to bring their own take and they want to do something different because they're convinced that modern audiences can't handle actual history. Side note, I will argue you cannot understand history if you do not know the reality of it, because that is the life people led. Those were the clothes that they had to wear. And so that's how they made their way through the world. But this one, it was just to be crazy. Again, this was a tricorn, the way it was trimmed and the way it was folded. It looked like a pillbox hat. It was something Queen Elizabeth II would have worn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And could someone buy her some hairpins?
No. Very few hairpins were harmed in the making of at least Maiwen's hair.
And in fact, it seems that everyone around her said to her that she had to...
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
That she didn't want to wear any
didn't-
wigs.
Yeah. So,
And she was only talked into wearing one wig
Yeah.
for the presentation.
Yeah.
And then you have one scene where she has her hair styled and you can tell she's very, like in an actual vaguely period style, and you can tell she's very and then she goes back to her hair down.
She has this I don't know, you can maybe just have something else, but not just...
Beachy waves.
Yeah.
Here's what kills me. It's a modern haircut.
Yeah.
No one in the 18th century would have their hair tapered
but even
at the ends.
Even right now, people don't get it's because it's not easy to live with your hair just
in your face.
Eyes,
Yes.
And so that just to show that she's a savage and that she will not fit to Versailles. But I mean, there was plenty of way to show that with hairpins. Sorry.
No, I agree. Well, also, except that's not the reality of du Barry.
Oh, no.
So, on the one hand, there's that. On the other hand, there were some crazy Bridgerton-esque hairstyles, but they were on the daughters of Louis XV.
Now, for me, they were just a caricature.
Yes. Of the bitchy...
Of the sisters of Cinderella.
Yes, they were ugly stepsisters. So they are Louis XV's daughters who were very disapproving of Jeanne du Barry. And sometimes they'd be wearing something that was vaguely historical, and then out of nowhere, I swear, I leaned over and I'm like, Bridgerton! They're wearing these crimped hairstyles that are off. They're like, they're sort of big poofs, but they're off to one side. And then those striped outfits, where they're all in these weird, different, contrasting stripes.
Yeah, it's just because they want to show that, because the first time that during which Jeanne du Barry is meeting them, she wears this striped gown, and they are bitching about her, and after that they decide to do like her. So just to show that, in fact, people are bitching behind her back, but they are copying
and making fun of her. Well, but also copying her because she's a fashion setter.
But
trendsetter.
To be honest, she has never set any trend in Versailles because she was not a fashion victim. Marie Antoinette, yes, for sure, but never Jeanne du Barry has never been a fashion victim. So why adding that to the story?
Well, again, it's to show how different she is. It's the point is it's so heavy-handed. So that's the thing that kills me. Yes, she was different. Yes, she came from lower class, sort of working class origins.
Yeah, but she was a very humble lady, and maybe I would have liked admiring Jeanne du Barry because she was humble and because she was nice, and not just
maybe that would make a good movie. But the thing that what kills me is they think audiences are stupid, so they have to hit you over the head with it rather than give you some subtlety. You know, like imagine if she was almost perfect, but not quite, you know, versus being, here's my hair down, here's my dress that like, at one point she's wearing this dress that has like, it's just, the skirt is just sort of, and then you get a shot of her underwear and suddenly there's a pair of panniers, the side hoops, sitting there and I'm like, those were not under that dress. You know,
I had the same.
Yes, like on a physics, a basic scientific level. You know,
Exactly.
So again, and then you have the big presentation where, yes, absolutely, Norma Shearer in the 1938 Marie Antoinette, her wig, she had these big, like, sort of pieces kind of hanging that I was, at any point, I was waiting for it to all go poof and fall apart.
So maybe it's a good time to speak about hairstyling.
Absolutely.
Kendra, because I don't know if you know it, but Kendra wrote a wonderful book about hairstyling wigs.
I did.
So
yes.
you are the expert.
Specifically for 18th century.
So what do you think of the wigs and the styling?
There was a lot of things that were good other than on my one. However, Louis is shown a lot of times with just his own hair long. And again, men cut their hair to wear wigs more comfortably. There's no reason he would have this long shaggy hair. And also specifically in one scene, she takes his wig off him. The first scene she really meets him in. And then his hair is suddenly down. A wig would fall right off your head if you did that. There were subtleties, different eras sort of mixed in. Sometimes.
A lot of mixing.
A lot of time period mixing.
Like it's, because I think the fashion and hairstyling is from the 1660 to the 19th century, to be honest, because it's a very large scale fashion.
Right. I mean, on the one hand, is that a crisis? No. There's subtleties, like that actor that we really liked who played the valet. His roles sort of were backwards, like they went like this and kind of turned in, rather than this way and turned out the way they should. But is that a crisis? No. And then sometimes again the daughters, who we usually think of as the aunts because they're Marie Antoinette's aunts, anyway, would have crazy, ridiculous hair. But then sometimes they wouldn't. And again, it was like, what's the point?
Yeah.
And why don't you have a consistent design vision? Why are they suddenly in this scene wearing crazy hair and in that scene wearing semi-decent hair?
But I think here you are just summarizing the whole story. It's just that it tells no story.
Right.
That's the problem, because there is a lot of things mixed together.
Yes.
And it's not just great or good. It's just something that anyone could do, because there is no directing, no managing.
There's no vision.
No vision. Exactly.
And I'm fine with being crazy, but have an artistic vision.
Yeah.
So my best example is Bridgerton, which A, has a consistent vision, and B, is based on a romance novel.
Yeah, and say something. If you make a change, it means something.
Yes.
It's a story. And here, things are changing from one sequence to the other one,
and you're like,
no
why?
reasons.
Why?
So that's just a messy result. So that's very, very
I agree.
cool.
I mean, again, that being said, Jeanne du Barry was the only one really with hair down and messy, which was ludicrous. But other than that, everyone else had their hair styled, whatever. And so, the specifics aren't perfect, okay. But the inconsistency, having certain characters who suddenly have crazy hair in one scene and then very sedate hair that's 20 years out of date in the next scene, that's more of a problem to me than... I mean, I know they're always trying to show the artificiality of the court at Versailles.
Yeah, but tell a story. And
exactly.
There is no story,
have a point.
No vision. It's just that, let's do that.
Yeah, why not?
But you need to tell a story, because to be honest, I'm okay with non-historically accurate things in a movie, because it's a movie. It's not really story. So if one day I want to do something very 100% historical, I know that I will say, hey, it's not a Romanesque movie or something like that. It's about history. But here it's not. So why not having some une vision esthétical.
An aesthetic vision.
Aesthetic vision.
The best thing about French is so many English words are based on French. So they'll say esthétique and you're like, oh, aesthetic.
Yeah, aesthetic, because
it's so easy.
For example, I will talk about Outlander season 2, for example.
Oh, yeah.
They had this idea of mixing with Dior, Dior outfits, and I didn't like them. And
but at least they had a vision and they said something about that character, that she came from, granted, the late 1940s, The timing was weird.
Yeah.
But she was the one who was different.
Yeah, exactly. So,
And the idea was she brought her aesthetic to when she went to the dressmaker.
When I heard that Maïwenn was going to wear some Chanel, I was like, hey, they're going to play it this way, and why not?
Okay, yeah.
But no, in fact, because...
Again, you can look at Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah. That's a great example, where they went crazy with the costumes. Mm-hmm. Or Crimson Peak. Mm-hmm. Crimson Peak, they're not even all in the same era. Some are in 1880s and some are 1890s, but it works because there's a coherent vision.
Yeah, and it tells things, and there is a story behind the choices made. Here, it's randomly chosen.
Yeah,
so no choice, no vision.
Yeah. It felt very much, other than my one, which again, I had a lot of problems with certain elements, but still, everyone else, it felt like they just went into a warehouse and were like, yeah, show me the 18th century stuff. And it's the thing of like, if you went into the 19th century section of the warehouse and picked the 1820s and the 1890s, no, they're not the same thing. Mm-hmm. There are similar differences in the 18th century. Is it a crisis? No. But it's a mishmash. I mean, there were sewn-in stomachers up the wazoo, back lacing up the wazoo. Pretty sure
so much back lacing.
Elizabeth Vigée-Lebrun, I swear to God, had a zipper placket up the back of her dress. Yeah. You know? I mean, and okay, crisis, no. But, I mean, I will say with Jeanne, I mean, that first dress that she's shown in the brothel, after the bustier, I swear, and I mocked this, granted, when I talked about the trailer, but it is that dress that Kim Basinger wore to the Oscars. And then there's the toilet paper cover, the blue dress. And then there's the random at the end, where I started to rant about satin. She's wearing this gray or silver satin dress.
On which, I don't know if you saw it, because when she's lifting her...
She has all of these wrinkles, and trust me, I have fought with satin. You have to underline the fuck out of it. You have to bone the fuck out of it. It's a testy fabric. But don't do it if you're not going to commit to doing it. And then Gaposis, her bodice is up here, and she's got this big skirt waistband.
Yeah, the waistband, the belt. It's just... I mean, every time she leaves
I spent the whole time staring at her waist.
You see everything about her waist, and I was like, okay, who does that? Just and maybe if you've done some 18th century, you know that it will never happen.
No, because a bodice and a skirt is always sewn together.
And you have different layers, so it will never move. And here it's just a fancy dress. Mm-hmm. So why are you wearing some Chanel and at the end you are wearing some fancy dresses? And about the colors, the choice of the colors, because from the beginning of the movie she's always wearing some white.
Yes, a ton of, and also for like 15 years wearing the same dress, which that drives me fucking crazy. She can't afford a new dress.
A new dress, to be honest.
She's getting these necklaces from circa 2000. Cartier or whatever, you know, but she can't buy a new dress. Go on.
So and she's wearing these white dresses even when she met the kings. Everything is white, and it's a taste of, because it means purity,
virginity, all of that.
And purity and change and fresh air, maybe in Versailles.
And I think they're trying to show that she doesn't give a fuck. Because they specifically are like, oh, you need to meet the king in an hour, like go change, and she's like, I'm ready. And they're like, no, really, go change. And she's like, no, really, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm. So...
She sticks a flower in her hair and goes.
And she goes because she's a natural lady.
She's a historical manic pixie dream girl.
Yeah, exactly. So she's in white during the first part of the movie, and when she has someone dead around, sorry, I'm not spoiling. So
no spoilers in history.
Someone is dying next to one of her relatives is dying, and then she moves. She switches to black dresses. And at the end, she's wearing some gray dresses. But that's you can make several dresses with one color and not only wearing one dress every time. Exactly,
because again, it's supposed to be 10 years later, and I'm not buying it if you're still in the same dress. Because not only are you probably a different size, the king is throwing money at you. You would buy new dresses, no matter what you were in. You know, exactly. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous.
About the stripes. You know, the first time she meets the daughters of the king. I mean, stripes, yeah, but you see them never see them before, and after that, just to show that she's copied. Thank you. By the other, Jeanne du Barry is dressed as a man.
Yes.
Did it happen? Never in reality.
And riding a stride with, like a man.
Yeah, and it never happened, because she's like, I'm wearing men outfits, and I'm okay with that, and it never happened in French history.
Well, Marie Antoinette did wear. She wore pants.
Oh, okay.
But Marie Antoinette, there's a portrait. There's a painting of Marie Antoinette riding, and she's wearing pants.
Oh, okay. So you are.
But it's not du Barry. That's a different person.
But and I think here we still have the vision of Maïwenn, because, as I said at the beginning of the video, she's an anti-feminist lady.
Yes.
Because she thinks that feminism is nonsense and that we are annoying. I say we because I am a feminist.
Frock Flicks is a feminist publication.
Yeah. So,
because feminism is the idea that women are people.
Yeah, exactly. So, and this lady seems to think that everything is okay, like we are this way. So she
it's
doesn't
great.
want to change
We all want to. Let's just go back in the kitchen and have men, allowed to rape us and not have rights to abortion, because that was great.
And I think that she has a very masculinist mindset.
Yes.
Because she's like, hey, I can do whatever I want. Yeah, but lady, you are just privileged lady.
Exactly. So you're not experiencing the kind of issues that average everyday women experience.
And hey, she's wearing men outfits, and she's riding this way, and I'm like, no way, never, because that's just the way that Maïwenn is. I really think that she thinks that men are equal to women, and that's why she doesn't think that feminism is...
It's like people who don't see race.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't see a difference. I see everyone as the same, when, yes, race is completely bullshit, and yet it completely affects our lives.
So I really think that she sees no gender, sexism, so that's why, hey, let's be dressed as a man.
Sure.
And to be honest, it's just Maïwenn, it's not Jeanne du Barry at all. So really, I think, and that's something I read on newspaper, a lot of people are complaining and telling that she was just realizing directing her
own story,
teenager phantasm, like having Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
I think
he's so dreamy.
I think that because sorry, but he was a big crush for me.
Of course, for all of us.
When I was a teenager in 21 Jump Street.
For sure.
I was like,
21 Jump Street, that's very cute. Yes, no, absolutely. Oh, God, he was beautiful.
Yeah, and
he was beautiful.
Nice, and he was rock and roll because
he had those cheekbones.
Yeah.
Are there things we haven't talked about that you would like to talk about?
The makeup is great.
Yeah, decent.
The makeup is very, very good.
I didn't see a lot of eyeliner.
Yeah.
Which is, heavy eye makeup is usually the
tone
thing.
Of the skin, I don't know how you see it.
Yeah, skin tone.
Skin tone is quite good because on the valet, it's quite good, and even to anyone. And you spoke about Marie Antoinette. The lady who is playing Marie Antoinette is just perfect.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
out of a portrait.
Great. Yeah, she's great, and she's so, precious.
She's a doll.
Yeah,
a
and
little
she's
doll.
perfect and great. So really
big doe eyes and the blonde hair and the perfect little face.
Yeah. So which means that if they want to do it, they can.
They could have used her as Jeanne du Barry, and
exactly.
And I guess the reason that bothers me is, is it a crisis? No, but that was her appeal. That was why she was able to go above her station, because she was such a classical beauty. Now, I don't know enough about du Barry to know her character, but at least in terms of her beauty, that was what got her.
Her character was very, because I've heard from someone who works in Versailles that when her jewels were stolen, she was like, she was not crying or anything. She just answered, okay, these guys maybe need the money more than I do.
Yeah.
And that's the whole du Barry. Because she was like, she was coming from the street, and she knew place, and she knew that what she could do or not, and she would not, for example, have kissed the king during a dinner.
Oh, but at least that was far enough along. You know, I don't know. That was at least farther along in their relationship that she would have felt that comfortable. You know?
So maybe you can speak about men costumes.
Yes.
Now
let's discuss the men's
a lot
costumes.
of things to say.
Okay. I will admit that I always pay attention. I'm focused on the women. So please, what did you think of the men's costumes?
About the king, I think that maybe the main costumes that Johnny Depp is wearing at the presentation, I think maybe it's done by Chanel or by a designer, a fashion designer. I don't know. Maybe it's not Chanel, but it's someone who knows costumes and who knows because the fabric is wonderful, but still it's not really well done because the cut is not correct. It's much more a fancy outfit than a real outfit, so that's why I think that
costume.
Yeah, and you know there is some kind of laces, so yeah, it's poorly done. But so that, and at one moment you have a scene with Laborde, so the valet, and he's speaking with Jeanne du Barry, and his jacket is off.
Yes.
And you see the waistcoat, and you see the back of the waistcoat.
I was wondering if that was okay. So the waistcoat is one piece, the back is like just sort of like it doesn't connect, and then it's tied. And so I admit to not being an expert in men's costumes. Note for a certain someone who hates me, I will say when I don't know. I don't know if that's historically accurate. Please, Fanny.
No, it's theatrical costume.
Yeah.
Because I know where these costumes are coming from. Because even every time you have around the king, you have the Maison Militaire du Roi, which
the
are
military that serve the king.
The bodyguards of the king.
Yeah,
bodyguards of the king, and they have this.
A uniform, a very specific uniform.
Yeah, it's hoqueton. It's called hoqueton in French. I don't know how to say it. Maybe it's hoqueton too in English. But they are wearing this very nicely embroidered outfit, which is hoqueton. You can see it in a lot of movies because they are the same costumes. I recognize them.
They're all from the same rental house.
Rental house, exactly. Because in France, you don't have a lot of rental houses. You have 3 of them, and I know them because when we are reenacting in Dampierre in July, we are using the very same hoqueton. So I know them
nice.
very
good.
And yeah, to be honest, you see that even for the people, the valets, they are renting the costumes.
Yes.
Why not? But
sure, of course, that's the way most films fill out the secondary and for sure the extras.
When you have a scene during which you have a close view of the back of the waistcoat, you need to change it and to do one. I think
just one.
I think it's
we don't ask for much.
Yeah, it's just few hours of work, maybe 3 or 4 hours of someone, and you have a very nice made waistcoat. And
a waistcoat is pretty easy to make compared to most pieces.
Or even you just remove the back, or you just add the back. Yeah. So maybe in 30 minutes, someone who knows what they have to do. I think in 30 minutes you do it. But still, they decided not to change it.
Because they say the audience won't know.
Yeah, but I'm okay with
but we know.
I'm okay with the idea of not being accurate. But here, it's just not being accurate. It's just a facility. It's
to be easy.
It's an easy choice. I mean, just take off your jacket and we should...
Also, why was he not wearing a jacket in the presence of somebody fancy and important?
For me,
that's another question I have.
For me, I took it like he became very intimate with Jeanne du Barry. So I like this idea that he's taking off his
being
jacket,
casual,
because as you can see, he does everything.
Right, perfect. Yes.
Perfectly. He even plays violoncelle.
He played the flute?
Yeah, because
I missed that.
he give advices about how to play violoncelle. I don't know if
Clearly, I missed that section.
so
No,
so
no
he knows
idea.
everything. He's just the guy who does. I think he's a series of the OK Google. Of the
He's
18th
Google.
century.
He's
Yeah.
the Google of the 18th century.
Yeah,
He can
he
do
does
anything.
Everything he can do anything, and he has every
Right.
answers. So why not?
Sure.
It's a good idea to add
Right.
this character because he explains to the people who
Yes.
are looking at the movie how it works in Versailles.
Exactly.
So that's why I really like this character. This
Yeah.
character is a very good choice, and as we said, the relationship with Jeanne is just perfect.
Mhm.
But just make him a correct waistcoat back.
Do we ask for much?
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time thinking about her showing gray in her hair, which of course makes sense because she's aging. But this is an era of powder, and it is the perfect era to go gray in because you're powdering, and therefore it wouldn't show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have the cut of the king's outfit, which is not correct. You have the dégingandé.
The lanky
The long
Dauphin.
guys. I mean, Alphonse.
Okay, so her adopted son,
Yes.
and also the Dauphin, who becomes
Adolphe and the Dauphin.
who
yeah.
becomes
They are,
Louis XVI.
very tall teenagers, and
Yes.
their outfits are not cut for them.
No.
And
Yes.
I mean, when you are the Dauphin, I think that you can afford to pay for something that fits you.
Yes, I agree.
That's my opinion.
We're crazy here.
Yeah. And about the other ones, I mean, because you have a lot of courtesans everywhere, and
Which courtesan actually means courtier. So, actually someone who's like not a high class prostitute, which is what courtesan means in English.
yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't know.
Yes.
I saw that.
It doesn't
courtesan,
translate well.
Okay. thank
Yes. Courtesan means, let's get
you.
down.
Okay. I didn't know that. So I will use the French word, les courtisans.
Right?
So yeah, the courtisans were quite well dressed, but that's a rental.
Yes, except all the sewn-in stomachers, backlacing,
No,
piping, weird
I'm
piping.
I'm talking about the guys.
Okay, I'm
The
talking
guys,
about the
the
women.
guys,
I
the
focus
guys.
on the
Only the
women.
guys.
Fucking, they're men. There are
Okay.
men in these
We
things.
go back to women.
Unless they're hot, I don't notice.
But and that's a problem that we have in many French movies. It's just that, for example, you have Les Adieux à la Reine.
Yes, Farewell, My Queen,
My Queen,
which
yeah.
I have reviewed on the blog.
Oh, okay. So
Yes.
maybe you will. In fact, the people who are just in the background, what are the name in English? The people
Extras.
Extras, yes, thank you. In this movie, the extras are well dressed. And
the main characters are not.
Because the extras have rental costumes.
Yes.
And sometimes they are hiring some reenactment groups.
Right.
So that's why in Farewell, My Queen, Les Adieux à la Reine, you have some very, very strange thing during which, there is this scene in the Galerie des Glaces, Hall of Mirror. You have all the courtesans,
the courtiers,
who are here around, and they are dressed perfectly. And here you have all the court who is coming, and
the queen looks like a drag queen.
Yeah, and it's horrible, and just that.
I have a whole rant on the blog about how Marie Antoinette was not a drag queen.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So that's very important to remember that.
Yes.
And that's something that happens very, very frequently in French movies because they are booking some costumes in rental houses. And it's okay, it's perfect. But they are choosing, okay, let's go for 100 years. So
sure. What's cheap? What's affordable?
It's 18th century,
sure.
so there's no fashion, so there is no... Just it's 18th century, and it's really what happened, I think, here.
Yes.
I mean, at one
and you have to be practical. We understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just maybe may one say, hey, 18th century. So they were 18th century, and it's 100 years, and there is maybe 100 or 200 fashions.
Yes. 1710s is very different than 1740s. It's very different than 1760s.
We still have no vision. Just
why?
randomly.
There needs to be a why. There needs to be a why.
Yeah,
if you're not doing historical, because theoretically, the idea of a biopic, a biography, is to understand the person who is the focus, right? In which case, you want to understand the context they live in. If you're going to change that, have a vision.
Yeah, but here we understand very well that it's my Wen's biopic.
Yes, it's her own life.
It's her own life. And
Which, that's perfectly reasonable, but then say so.
Explain so, yeah.
How say so?
And she doesn't.
Right. Now I have to talk to the youngest daughter of Louis the 15th. And which one was that?
So go back to the woman.
Was that Sophie or Victoire? There's a million names.
Yeah.
The point is she's the young one who's young and pious. They have her in 1840s and 1850s dresses. Versus what she actually would have, the high necks with piping and princess seams down here.
Yeah.
And I get, they're trying to show you that she's very pious, she's very modest, she doesn't want to show her boobs.
They could have done it.
Just wear it with a fichu.
Yeah.
Just put a fichu, cover her up, a cap. Exactly.
Yes,
so,
there's many.
as I wrote in my preview post, she looks like she's in Madame du Bovary. She looks like she's in 1840s.
Exactly.
1850s.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to the 18th century. There is a way to look covered up and very pious and sweet in the 18th century, which would be a fichu, a neckerchief,
even the mother of Jeanne du Barry.
She had some weird shit.
Her scarf. I don't know, because at the beginning she is wearing a scarf.
She also had something that kind of looked like a chemise à la reine, but wasn't quite.
Yeah, I don't know what she was wearing. She was wearing something. But
she's wearing bullshit.
Yeah, I think because the sleeves are 17th century sleeves, so it's a big mess of many periods.
And I get, you're trying to show the audience, this is and again, I'm thinking of the youngest daughter. She's very pious, she's very modest, she has very simple hair, blah, blah, blah. But how hard is it to do that in an 18th century way? Cover her up with a fichu, with a cap, with mitts, with all of those kinds of things. So you don't have to put her in 19th century clothing.
So if you had to reshoot the movie and you were the costume director, what would you do? As I was a costume designer and costume director in some short movies, I know that very often we have the money question. I mean, it costs a lot to make some outfit costumes and everything. So I know that most of the time, if the movies are not historically accurate, it's because of the money, because it costs so much.
Of course.
But yet, I think that she had a lot of money. So,
yes.
So I
which is disappointing. Disappointing,
yeah. So at first, for all the extras, I would rent some costumes, and she did. So they did, right? I would keep the hairstylers because they were great. They were able to do everything. So
other than the really weird ones.
But they are able to do it. Okay. So I keep them, but I say to them, stop, you just stitch to the period. Because we are in a short period. So this should be 1760s. Yeah, so please stick to the period.
Early 1770s.
If you count the number of short-haired periods, short-haired hairstyles, and the number of big-head hairstyles. Yes.
Which are much more later.
Yeah, and you have a lot of big
Louis
ones.
the 16th coming and Marie Antoinette coming to the throne.
And you have a lot of big ones. So it means that they gave the order, they asked for big ones. And I would say, no, come back to the short ones. Right. So I would change that. I would keep the makeup guys and ladies because they did a great job. Yes. I think I would keep all the costumers because they did a great job. The problem is not about the costume.
No, the execution, they're told what to execute. But what I might do, I might show the progression for Jeanne du Barry from...
So you have ideas.
I do have an idea now. The progression from more working class, working in a dressmaker shop, and moving her way up.
Yeah, exactly.
To show how her getting closer and closer. Yeah. And it would be interesting if she was dressed perfectly, but still not accepted, because that was exactly the issue. Of course, she got the money and all of that, but they still didn't accept her. So show her dressed perfectly, and either missing one little thing, or just, yes, she looks perfect, but that doesn't matter because she's still a whore, you know.
Exactly. And for the guys, I would, just for the, not the extras, but the people in front of the camera, I would be more accurate, and maybe I would change the fabrics, because there is a lot of bad fabrics for Johnny Depp. For the film, because the fabric is not right, but sometimes I have great fabrics, so they know how to do it. So.
Yeah, and that fucking satin dress she wears at the end when Louis XV is dying, I would underline it and I would bone it, because that's what you have to do to satin. Go ahead, satin is beautiful. In my opinion, it's one of the most beautiful fabrics. But if you're gonna take it on, you need to fucking know how to work with it.
I would change the shape because it's
a
revolution.
Oh my god, 1780s, 1720s, it's all over the fucking map.
She's wearing a Pierrot, which is a revolution dress.
Jacket, it's a jacket, which really don't come into 1780s, 1790s. Oh, absolutely, it's total bullshit.
So why not? It's okay for her to to wear something very different from the other ones, but not go to search for the revolution dresses.
I think the interesting thing that I have noticed is when you get before the 19th century, and granted, in the 19th century, the fashion changes are more pronounced. But you go before the 19th century and people really just think it's a whole century. It's all the 18th century, it's all the 17th century, it's all the 16th century. When there are differences.
Or just, if I'm thinking out of the box.
Go crazy.
If I go crazy, I would dress people living in Versailles crazy.
Sure, like Hunger Games. Hunger Games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so the people who live in the city are over the top, and the people who live in the
I would announce that from the beginning. I'm not accurate, and it's okay. I don't want to be accurate because she says
she's not trying to be.
You share to me. She said that she did not want to be accurate.
Great.
So if you don't want to be accurate, don't be accurate. Just don't mix accurate things with non-accurate things. So I would go like...
or decide the hair will be accurate, but the colors won't be. Or the colors will be, but the hair won't. You know, like, etc. That sort of thing.
So, and to stick to Madame du Barry, I would be much more on the human side and the humble side. Because
who was she as a person?
She was very humble and she was very nice to everyone. And she was too nice. If we hear from people who lived around her, she was very, very nice with everyone. So she was like, you know, when you are too nice with some people,
you get taken advantage of.
So she was thought to be this kind of lady. So I would have changed. Maybe I would have shared some political views. Like for example, the black slave, because at the beginning he's a slave, and after that she decides to be not a slave but a valet. And maybe
that's definitely not covered in the movie.
No, but I would go that way. I mean, because there is a lot of things to share about Madame du Barry, but not just that she's wearing stripes or very hair falling down her face, which is ridiculous. So, to sum up, don't go and don't watch this movie.
Or watch it to hate watch it.
Yeah.
Which is how I often watch movies for Frock Flicks.
But it's, you know...
No, but do not use it as a reference to assume this is what history looked like.
But
we're doing it as critics.
And
there are bits that are good.
Take some booze and friends.
Yes.
And maybe drink every time you have something not accurate.
Yes.
But you will be drunk very, very quickly.
Yes, you will.
Because, you know, at the very beginning of the movie, the first costumes are just fancy dresses.
It's Renaissance fair.
Yeah. So
absolutely,
don't look at this movie for
as a historical reference.
Please,
absolutely, no. Yes. Please, we implore you.
Yeah, please.
All right. With that, we're going to say thank you if you managed to watch all the way through this. And please check us out at frockflicks.com. And then also Temps d'Elegance.
I made a website which is called mycostume.tech.
Please, tell us about that.
So it's called mycostume.
It's an app, it's not a website, right?
It's a website, but it's, at the end it will be an app.
Okay.
But every time I learn something about fashion, I put it in this website. So, in fact, if you need to find out something about historical costuming, then everything on this website.
Okay.
So, take a look.
Yes,
try it.
and it will help you in making your own costuming decisions.
Yeah, and it's evolved, so I will update it very, very often. So if you come back 1 year later, it will have changed totally, I think.
Excellent.
So it's just the beginning, because very soon, I think this winter, there will be plenty of evolutions in it. But
Excellent. All right, well, thanks very much, Fanny, for joining me. I appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers to anyone. But remember that drinking is not a good thing, so never drink, or drink,
Never.
Drink a little. But
Only un petit peu.
Maybe after seeing,
En français.
Peut-être après avoir vu Jeanne du Barry.
Oui.
Maybe after seeing Jeanne du Barry,
You might need a drink.
But